All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining us today on this presentation on Teen Dating Violence 101, and where we're basically going to cover what teen dating violence is and how you can figure out whether or not your dating relationship or even a friendship is healthy or unhealthy. My name is Ana Velasquez. I am the prevention specialist with the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center, and I am so happy to be here today. And joining me today is also Monarch Services, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dalia, and I also do prevention work with Monarch Services. And just as Anna mentioned, very happy that you clicked on this video and that you're watching it. And hopefully, there can be a little bit more understanding on what teen dating violence is.
Right, and then hi everyone. My name is Jackie Sandoval. I am also part of the prevention program with Monarch Services. And I'm just really excited to be here and share with you all a very important topic.
Hey everybody, my name is Patty and I am intern at Monarch Services and I'm here to support and just watch and learn along with you guys.
Okay, so February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And this was created to create an effort to create awareness around teen dating violence, making it a real subject in the community, and just letting people know that this happens and that we can all as a community fight against it. Actually, our current president, he proclaimed it a national awareness month, so now it is official. It has been on the low, between agencies that we all kind of talk about it, but now it's an official awareness month. Teen dating violence has its very own month, and then of course it's in February because it's very related to Valentine's Day, and like everyone's talking about love and relationships, so why not talk about healthy relationships, right? So yeah, just so you'll hear us talk a little bit more about this during our presentation. So what is teen dating violence? The CDC defines it as a physical, psychological, or sexual abuse, harassment, or stalking of any person aged 12 to 18 in the context of past or present romantic relationships. So let's break this down. This means that teen dating violence, TDV, can be present in different forms of abuse, not just physical. Obviously, that's one that people tend to think it's the most common or the most harsh form of abuse, but emotional and psychological abuse can also be a huge part of it. And then we're going to be also talking about sexual abuse and consent. And then right now, with the such a big presence of social media, harassment and stalking has also been a part of TDV. And then another key point here is that teen dating violence, specifically for those around the ages of 12 and 18, it is normally when a person starts their dating life. Um, Although teen dating violence and the impacts can, follow the person through their adult life and their adult relationships, but it does portray specifically to teenagers in the age of 12 to 18. And because of our services and the type of work that we do, we are going to emphasize this presentation on romantic relationships and either their past or present. So obviously, teen violence can be in many other forms and with other types of relationships like friendships or parents, peers. But for the context of this presentation and teen dating violence, we're going to be talking more about romantic relationships. Okay. And then why is this important, right? Statistics, it's a great way to get to know the issues and to just serve as a reminder that this is happening, that it's important, it's happening every day in our community. So we share the statistics with you all to create that awareness, right? So 1 in 3 teens in the US is a victim of physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse from a dating partner. 1 in 3, that means, there's 4 of us right here. I guarantee that one of us has experienced TDV or is a survivor of TDV. And then this figure exceeds other types of youth violence like gang related abuse or bullying or online harassment. So 1 in 3 is a really high number. Obviously, all statistics can fluctuate between high or low. These are just reported statistics. And honestly, we think this number might be a lot more higher. 1 in 10 high school students has been purposefully hit, slapped, or physically hurt by their partner. So this refers to specifically the physical abuse in teen dating violence. 1 in 10 might not sound like a very high number. Like if you think about it, you're like, oh, well, 9 other people are safe. But if you compare this to the amount of high schools that there is, so the average high school has about 1,400 students in California. So if you think about it and you expand the statistics of 1 in 10, you're talking about more than 400 students being physically assaulted by their partner. So just keep that in mind. It's a real issue. It's happening every day in our many local schools, right? And this statistics is just includes high school. It doesn't include middle school or college. And then the severity of intimate partner violence is often greater in cases where the pattern of abuse was established in adolescence. So this means that, just like we said earlier, although teen dating violence, the definition describes ages 12 to 18, when there's been a pattern of abuse in those early teenage years, it continues to grow and follow that person throughout their life. So it might have started when they were 12, 13, but they might continue to go into relationships of abuse even in their early 20s or mid 20s, where they're, in that early adulthood. So teen dating violence, it's happening. It happens every day in our communities. Our teenagers are definitely struggling with this, and hopefully through our presentation, we're able to share with you and create some awareness on this topic.
So as Jackie mentioned there at the end, the severity, so meaning how intense an intimate partner relationship once you're an adult can be, also depends on, if there was teen dating violence going on when you were young. And where does violence, right? Where does it begin? Or where do little kids, babies learn about violence? Well, you learn it at home. Unfortunately, a lot of children do witness violence at home, whether that's domestic violence between both parents, familial violence, which means, there's violence between other family members that you live with. But there's this thing called the intergenerational cycle of violence. And this cycle is one that we really want to break at an early age and that we want to eventually end. There's other different cycles that we will be talking about in the next few slides as well. But this one specifically talks about how a child, a young youth, witnesses violence at home. So the first thing on top right, it says parental violence. So in this example, parents, there's domestic violence going on, whether that's mom hitting dad or dad hitting mom, or if you have parents who are of the same sex, it doesn't matter. We have to remember that domestic violence affects everyone. There's not one type of relationship that doesn't get affected by domestic violence. So the parents are fighting, right? Regardless if that's hitting, verbal, so words mean words that are being said, one parent putting the other parent down, parents putting their children down, making them feel bad, abuse, whatever the case may be. But the caregivers, the primary 2 people that are supposed to keep you safe and show you love and respect, they're the ones that are fighting. And then, of course, the children, their kids, they're seeing this. You're witnessing this. You're living it. every day in your household, or every often that an incident occurs. And then this causes, for there to be some behavioral and some psychological effects that are being displayed, that maybe, now you're not paying attention in school. Maybe you stopped hanging out with your friends, or you stopped being so talkative, or vice versa. Maybe your way of, forgetting about what's going on at home is now you're becoming the bully. Maybe you're bullying people at school, or maybe that person that is bullying people at school, something could be going on at home and we don't know, right? Because we can't see what happens at home. And this is not justifying people who bully at all. It's just a way for us to understand where people come from. Or maybe, you used to be very good at school and you would always do your homework and you were always happy. And now that there's this violence going on at home, your grades are dropping. You really can't even concentrate at home because of all the things that are going on. So we're starting to see those effects that children are having. And then once you grow up, you get into your first relationship, right? Or, that romantic relationship that you have for the first time ever. But since you've seen the two people who, one, take care of you, and two, are supposed to be in a relationship, loving each other, right? Since you've been seeing that, since you've been growing up, maybe you start, let's say you're a little jealous, right? But you think that's normal because you already saw that with your parents. Maybe one parent constantly accused the other one of, cheating, for example. Or perhaps you saw that one of your parents makes fun of the other parent when they can't do something, or they fail at something that they wanted to do. So you start doing those things with your partner too, right? You start making fun of your partner, or if they're like frustrating you, you have anger and you like call them names, or you tell them they're so annoying, or to leave you alone, or you feel like you're entitled to make them feel however, you're feeling. And that's not okay. That's not healthy. And that's how teen dating violence starts. And from there on, as you're growing up and you're still thinking, right, all of this is normal. All of this has been happening in my family, so it's pretty normal. When you get to the age of becoming a parent, or, whatever that looks like, but there's a young little human being that's in your care. And now you're with your partner and that violence is still going on. Guess what? The cycle is going to start again. That child is going to see that violence, and then they're going to have effects, behavioral or psychological effects. And then eventually they're going to start a relationship thinking that all of that violence is normal. And that's just how the cycle continues. So it's very important for all of us to understand this cycle and know that, if we're a teenager right now and you're watching this and you're a teenager, and as I'm saying this, you're starting to think like, oh man, like I kind of can identify with that, or I've seen that at home. The first step is to be able to identify those things. So you're already on a good track. If you're an adult or a parent or a caregiver and you're watching this video and you know that you're in an unhealthy relationship, and you can start pointing out that, okay, I don't want my child to keep seeing these things. There's help out there, and we'll talk about that further down the line. But what's important is that once we're adults and we're having kids, or we have younger siblings or little cousins or younger kids in our life, that we role model what healthy communication is and what a healthy relationship looks like. And violence, it's never the option for anything. So let's keep that in mind. And as I said, we're going to talk about a different cycle. That one was the cycle of intergenerational violence. This one is the cycle of abuse. So this cycle is basically the stages that happen in an unhealthy, abusive relationship. So this one in particularly has 4 stages to it. And we're going to start with the tension stage. So tension means, things are bubbling up, they're building up. One of the partners, feels like they're walking on eggshells. They feel like something's wrong with the relationship, but they can't pinpoint what it is. They feel scared to even ask their partner, like, hey, I feel like something's wrong, because you don't know, and you start thinking like, well, what have I done, or like, what could I have done to piss her off or piss him off? You start asking yourself those things. And the abusive partner during the tension stage usually tends to be moody. They tend to like criticize you or like make you feel bad about yourself. They use a lot of gaslighting to put things back on you and make it feel like it's your fault at the end of the day. And you know, that tension is just building between both of you in the relationship. And it gets to the point where, you know, as we know, when things bubble up, they explode, right? So it goes into explosion. And in this phase, it's where the actual abuse happens. So remember, there's different types of abuse. Jackie mentioned the teen dating violence ones. But we have physical, sexual, emotional, verbal. So any of that abuse occurs during the cycle of abuse in the explosion phase. And I want to make it clear that more than one type of abuse could be happening. There could be physical abuse while there's also verbal abuse going on. So it doesn't mean that just one thing is happening. It could be multiple things. And then, of course, after the abuse occurs, then you get into the remorse stage. In the remorse stage, it's where your partner apologizes for what just happened or whatever happened last week or whatever the case may look like. You know, they start apologizing. They promise you that things are going to be different. They promise you that it's never going to happen again. But during this stage, what really, you know, always we need to be aware of is that even though they're apologizing and they're saying that it's not going to happen again, they still find ways to, one, justify their actions or build excuses for their actions. So it sounds something like, I'm so sorry, I accused you of cheating on me with your neighbor. But, right, there's that but if you wouldn't say hi to him when you're getting the mail, I wouldn't think you're cheating on me. Right? So they're apologizing, but they're still putting it on you. They're still gaslighting you that it's your fault that they acted that way. And, you know, that's all psychological in our minds. And a lot of people, you know, I don't know if you've heard the saying, words hurt more than actual physical. And though, you know, it's just a saying, it's true. Yes, the physical hurts. And yes, you know, it hurts our physical body. But when somebody's really messing with your mind and gaslighting you and making you feel like things are your fault, like you're crazy, it really keeps us in this cycle. And that's the cycle we want to break. And once the apology stage happens, it goes into the honeymoon stage. And in the honeymoon stage, you know, it's all good. You feel like the relationship's finally good. You know, they already apologized. They said sorry. There could be maybe some extra affection going on. Maybe they're giving you extra attention. They're giving you things that, you know, usually they don't. Like, for example, if your partner never gives you, let's say, flowers, but, you know, after they're being remorseful, they start, you know, giving you flowers and making you feel good. And they start filling in those needs. So those things that you would want from them all the time. But then unfortunately, since this is a cycle, and as we know, a cycle goes around, then something happens, that tension starts building. And then the explosion happens again. And then the remorse happens again. And then again, there goes the apologies. And the cycle just continues and continues. So that's why it's very important for us to identify these 4 phases and, you know, really understand that each phase is interconnected with one another. And in order to end such cycle, we have to know what the cycle is, and also know that at the end of the day, if you have a friend or a cousin, or, you know, you have a child who's in an abusive relationship, it's gonna take some time to end the cycle, but it's not impossible. And that's what we're here for today, also to help individuals help others end the cycle. So what influences, right, teen relationships? And Anna's going to tell us.
All right. So one of the things that oftentimes comes up, right, when you are brand new to the world of dating, maybe getting little crushes here and there, and you finally ask the one person that you like out and they said yes, right? is figuring out what happens afterwards. How do relationships of this type work? And unfortunately, especially for a lot of young people, you aren't given a manual, right? How to do a romantic relationship manual when you first start dating that person that you really like and care about. A lot of the times, we're going to try to figure things out with that relationship the same way that we would try to figure out any other relationship, which is by trial and error and by using information that we have from a variety of sources. And so, what are some of those sources that really influence the way that we all engage in relationships? Well, the first one is your family, right? There are behaviors that you see in your family, either between your parents, between your grandparents, if you are living in a multi-generational household, right, where a bunch of family generations are living in one shared living area. Maybe the relationship that you're seeing play out with your older siblings and their partners. And what does that look like? What behaviors are you seeing that are seen as healthy and normal relationship behaviors? What behaviors might be at the borderline of unhealthy, and what behaviors might be actually incredibly hurtful and damaging? What we see in our home can have such a huge impact in the way that we see other behaviors in a lot of the relationships that we have, including our dating relationships. And it can also influence our perception of what we see as normal. So if we are coming from a home where maybe there's domestic violence and abuse, as Dalia mentioned, that has been happening between parents or between your older sibling and their partner, then your sense of what is normal in a relationship is going to look a lot more different than a person who grew up in a household where those behaviors weren't present and where other behaviors were actually being used to solve conflicts and to get emotional needs met. One of the second biggest sources of information for people is their friends, right? A lot of the times, if there's something that we don't know too well, right, especially when it comes to relationships, and maybe we don't want to talk to our family about it because, it's just weird to talk about some of these issues with them. So the next best thing is to ask our friends, right? And our friends, again, the mileage is going to vary around whether they might give you some really solid and good advice and recommendations about how can you solve your first big fight with your partner. How does resolving that conflict look like? They might give you some ideas that might work out really well and your relationship might be good and healthy. They might give you some ideas on what to do that instead of making things better, make things a lot worse. Or they might give you ideas that rather than leading to a healthy relationship, might actually be contributing to the relationship becoming more and more unhealthy over time. The next source of information that a lot of people have is also the media. How are relationships being portrayed? Whether it's in reality TV shows, fiction, and cartoons, music, all of that. And what is the quality of the relationships that are being presented? More often than not, the reality is that we are currently living in a media landscape where if I was to ask any of you to sort of take a moment and think, if you could come up with at least 5 examples of a healthy relationship, right? And later on, you will find out what those elements of a healthy relationship are and start thinking about some of the TV shows or movies that you watch. Do some of the relationships featured in those shows or films, do they have the elements of a healthy relationship? And more often than not, when I ask this question to young people in the community, they can't think of any examples. Or if they can, it's only about 1 or 2 at the most. So healthy relationship examples in our media content are very, very rare. But what is incredibly abundant are a lot of examples of unhealthy and abusive relationship behavior that is being portrayed as normal, as just that's what happens in relationships, right? And as I talked about before, in the same way that our sense of normal can be warped by what we grew up seeing at home, it can also be modified and changed by the way that our media is showing certain behaviors, where if it's showing some abusive behaviors and it's being presented as something that's normal, over time, we're going to start to think, okay, well, maybe somebody cussing me out in front of my friends, that's normal. Somebody giving me a silent treatment after a fight, that's totally normal too. When the reality is that those are not normal, healthy relationship behaviors by any means. Some of the other sources of influence are, what are your personal views and values? So what are some of the things that you yourself hold deep in your heart of hearts as being important beliefs? What are some of the things that you think are okay or not okay in the treatment of yourself by others, and the treatment that you yourself give to others in return? And then finally, hormones, right? During puberty, your body is in a state of internal chaos. A lot of things are changing physically on a biological level. And as a result, sometimes the state of our emotions are topsy-turvy. You might feel like you're an emotional roller coaster ride. And so a lot of the times, those very intense feelings that we're experiencing, especially those very intense highs and those very deep lows that we might be experiencing during this very chaotic time period of your lives, that can also influence the way that you sort of navigate the relationship and figure out, okay, how do I want to proceed? Do I want to give this person the silent treatment for the next couple of days until I feel better? Or do I feel like I am able to talk to this person and have a conversation about what happened, about the harm that they did to me, or vice versa, the harm that I did to them, in order for me to make amends? So all of those combined, again, and the media, one of the things I also want to include, that also includes the internet, because there's plenty of young people that sometimes will go on to places like Reddit or other online spaces to ask internet strangers for guidance. But one of the things to bear in mind is that, again, the quality of the advice received through some of these online spaces is going to vary greatly. There might be some people that are very genuinely wanting to help and might provide some very good, reasonable, and what we in the prevention field would consider evidence-based, approved advice, while other people might simply be posting a feedback that is not really helpful. They're just simply trying to troll you and trying to maybe put you in a much more difficult position in figuring things out in your relationship. So just take internet advice with a grain of salt. There are also a lot of myths and misconceptions around teen dating violence. some of these myths, to a greater or lesser extent, affect anybody who's experiencing teen dating violence, but particularly queer young people who are going through it will experience it in a very unique way, just simply due to the fact that they identify as queer and are living the queer experience. So the first one is that there's a misconception that domestic violence or dating violence is mainly a straight issue, and that it doesn't occur very often in queer relationships. The reality is that it might be perceived like that simply because most of the sort of shocking cases of teen dating violence, right, that sometimes get depicted on places like true crime podcasts and whatnot, right? A lot of those cases are of cis heterosexual relationships. And there aren't that many cases that catch the spotlight in that are of queer relationships, right? The same thing could be said about some of these straight from the headlines cases, right? That there might be a lot of cases that feature middle class white young people, right, involved in the situation, but there's also plenty of people of color, youth of color, that are experiencing teen dating violence as well. And the reality is that LGBTQ plus folks do experience domestic violence and teen dating violence at the same rates that straight really people do. There's also a lot of misconceptions and assumptions that sometimes the incidents of domestic violence or dating violence are less severe in queer relationships than it is in straight relationships. The reality is that that is not the case at all. We cannot be comparing the severity and the magnitude of the harm that is being done to somebody be in a queer abusive relationship as versus, somebody who is experiencing the same behaviors, except that they're in a straight relationship context. It is incredibly important to remember that we cannot be comparing one form of harm or minimizing one form of harm as being less severe than the other, especially because, at least in the case of specifically gay men and bisexual women in particular, they are more likely to experience severe physical violence than folks who are in a straight relationship. And there's all kinds of different challenges that they might experience too as well. And so we want to be very careful around the way that we are making assumptions about the severity, right? And the overall impact of the harm that's being done to people. There's also an assumption that mental abuse or an emotional abuse are also not as serious as physical or sexual violence. But the reality is that, as Dania and even Jackie have sort of hinted at, is that just because the abuse that somebody is experiencing isn't giving them severe physical injuries, that by no means means that this person is going to be 100% okay after the fact or after this relationship is over. One of the things I would oftentimes hear from survivors of dating violence would be that sometimes it was a lot easier for them to deal with the physical abuse than it was with the mental or emotional abuse that they would experience. Because with the physical abuse, yeah, they would get hurt physically, there would be bruises, but due to the fact that it was a physical injury, they at least could sort of estimate how long it would take for a bruise, right, to heal, for a broken bone to be fully mended and restored. But when it came to the injuries, not only to their mind, but also to their spirit, that is the result of experiencing mental and emotional abuse. Those injuries would be the most difficult to heal, according to them. And they wouldn't have a fixed sort of timeline like the physical injuries where, okay, a bruise, it'll fade in a week, right? To guide them towards sort of like a moment where they could see, okay, I can get over this. Those wounds can stick around for a lot more longer and can have a detrimental impact on somebody's mental health, their well-being, and also their sense of self and their value as a person, and also their sense of safety and trust in the good of people out in the world. There's also another common myth that a lot of the times that people assume that the more masculine, bigger, or stronger partner in a relationship is always going to be the person that is the abuser causing harm. But the reality is that people who use harmful behavior in their relationships can look like anybody. There are plenty of cis heterosexual relationships where the abuser in the situation is the female partner in the relationship who might look small, frail, and quote unquote vulnerable. In queer relationships, it is very likely that the person that, again, fits this image of being incredibly masculine, big, and strong is actually the person that is experiencing incredible amounts of harm at the hands of their partner. And part of one of the tools of abuse that their partner might use is that who's going to believe you if you were to call the cops on me and you tell them that I've been abusing you? Are they really going to believe you, somebody that looks very big and strong, or are they going to believe me, somebody that looks very weak and vulnerable and frail? So please, especially as if you are not experiencing any of these things yourself, but you maybe have people in your life, friends or other loved ones that might be experiencing abuse, please keep an open mind, because sometimes this very specific myth can be one of those barriers that can keep people from coming to you as a friend or loved one for help, because they might believe that, oh, well, you're not going to believe me because you're going to assume that I am the one that's being abusive because I don't fit the stereotype of what an abuse victim looks like. There's also another misconception that is very common, especially when it comes to folks in queer relationships, that for queer people that are experiencing abuse in their relationship, it is easier for them to leave their relationship than it is for their straight or married counterparts. But the reality, again, this myth is minimizing the severity and the magnitude that somebody needs to sort of undergo in order to really sit with the question of, do I leave this relationship? And if I do decide I want to do that, how can I go about doing it without the person that I'm with either hurting me, hurting my family, hurting my pets, hurting anybody else I care about? And it cannot even stop at that level of harm of just simply hurting and causing injury. It could be that they're also thinking like, I want to leave in a way that maybe makes it more likely that I'm going to come out of this situation alive, because my life is literally on the line here. One of the things that comes up for a lot of people is that sometimes a lot of people in the community don't realize that the most dangerous time for anybody in an abusive relationship is when they're in the process of leaving. And by making assumptions that because somebody is in a queer relationship, it makes it easier for them to leave, it minimizes how severe the possible risk to this person's life making such a decision is going to have, right? And we don't want to do that, right? Because the people that, or the person that has been hurting them in the relationship has already been doing a really good job at minimizing the severity of the harm that they're doing to this person. And we don't want to add on to that by making statements that make this suggestion to this person, or because one, that we're adding to the abuse that they're experiencing without even realizing it. And secondly, because it's going to make us, right, appear to this friend or loved one not as a safe person. We're going to start appearing as an incredibly unsafe and unreliable person for them to rely on if they did want to leave and they needed help. And then finally, there's always this assumption that sometimes that dating violence or domestic violence is because people who are using harmful behavior, that they have anger management problems and they have a really hard time controlling their impulses. And this is not just something that a lot of folks sort of come up with. Sometimes these are reasons that people that are experiencing teen dating violence, that they hear from their partner that's hurting them for why they're behaving that way towards them. They might hear things like, oh, you know, I have a short temper. Or, oh, you know, I'm impulsive. I'm very passionate. That's why I'm acting like this. But one of the things to sort of think about, if you have heard comments like that from your partner, or if as a friend, you've overheard your friend's partner say comments like that to them, right? It's just think about things this way. If this person had a genuine anger management problem or an impulse control issue, they would be acting out this way towards everybody, towards their friends, their parents, teachers, soccer coaches, random person in the street, anybody, right? Who even dare to look at them funny. But what their behavior is sort of showing us is that they're being very selective, right? They're picking the right place, the right time when to hurt somebody, right? They're not doing it out in the open. They're probably hurting their partner behind closed doors or in an area of your school where nobody else is around, so nobody can see what's happening, right? And nobody can sort of intervene in case this person starts to get really rough with their partner. They are making active choices on some level to act that way only with that one person and not anybody else. Because again, if they did have a genuine problem with their anger management, they would be acting out with everybody in this without taking consideration, you know, is this my partner? Is this my boss? Is this my teacher? You know, they would be acting with everybody the same way. And so please keep these myths, this sort of information in mind, because as I said before, sometimes we might say things or do things, right, when we are with our friends or when we're out in the community. And we might not realize that when we are saying things that echo a lot of the myths here, we're sort of putting a flag upon ourselves that lets anybody in our circle that is experiencing teen dating violence know that we are not safe people for them to go to for help. And if we want to be good friends, if we want to be good family members, if it's a sibling or a cousin that's coming for us for help in this, we want to show our best selves, right? We want to show ourselves as reliable and safe people. So just be a lot more mindful about what you say and do, and also think about, where did some of these beliefs come from? Did they come from, again, pop culture? Did they come from things that you're hearing from your parents and you're just sort of echoing out into that community? Like, where did some of these beliefs come from? Because the reality is that it's very different for the survivors that are experiencing dating violence, and their reality is not, it doesn't reflect what these myths have to say.
Okay, so we've been doing a really good job, at least I feel like, at creating awareness and informing you about what teen dating violence is. And now we're gonna get to talk a little bit more about the signs of what an unhealthy relationship can look like. It's really important to identify these signs because we can prevent the violence from happening before it starts, right? So, um, and you'll see that a pattern in unhealthy relationships is that it comes down to disrespect and control, which is very similar with domestic violence in general, the power and control. Here it's a lot about disrespecting and that like lack of respect and then controlling the partner or so for example, intensity is something that we really see in a lot of teen relationships. I get it. We're in love. We've been there where we just can't get enough of that person. Um, but sometimes it can just be a little too much, So intensity is over the top behavior that feels like too much too soon. So it's say for example, you start dating this person. You've probably knew each other from school and like a high and by, or you had some classes together, but then you start hanging out more and you get into this formal relationship, and it's like they just want to be with you 24/7. They just want to hang out, or when you're not together they're always like texting you, where are you, what are you doing, um or constant calls or FaceTime. They can also be like monitoring you through your social media, or they just want to know what you're doing and who you're with 24/7. Um, and so that's a sign of intensity. I get it. Like I said, we all want to spend time with our loved ones, but there has to be a balance, right? And like we said, control, it's a huge aspect of an unhealthy relationship. Control is telling you what to do, who to spend time with, what to wear. Those are just some of the most common examples. Um, and it can also look like, I don't want you to hang out with that person anymore, or can I see your text messages? I want to see who you're texting. I need the password of your social media. Um, I want you to delete your social media or don't have like a messenger. I don't even know if anybody uses Facebook anymore, but like I want you to deactivate your Facebook account. It's very controlling of like I want you to do this or you must do that in order to keep me happy in this relationship, right? In order to, if we go back to what Dalia mentioned at the beginning of that cycle of abuse, it's like they're asking you to do a bunch of things that will prevent the tension and the abuse from happening. And so you end up doing as they want because you want to avoid the situation to escalate into this big fight, right? So it comes down to controlling every aspect of you. It can start very minimal of like, I don't think those shoes look nice and you should probably change, or that shirt just doesn't fit you. You should probably go put another one. And then next time you know it, like they're picking out your outfit or throwing out your clothes that they just don't want you to wear. So it can be very subtle and then escalate into something a lot bigger. um, Isolation is also a big part of an unhealthy relationship. They start separating you from your support system or distancing you from others. And it can look like, I just really don't feel like that friend is a good friend for you. We should probably stop talking to them. Or why do you have to hang out so much with your parents? Like you're an adult or you're a teen, like you shouldn't be hanging out so much with your parents. Or let's say you want to go to a family event and they don't want you to go, and they make up this big fit about, well, why do you have to go, why can you like be with me? And so again, so this intensity of like, don't be with your family, be with me. And then it comes to the control of like, I don't want you to hang out with your family. um and it leads into isolation of like separating from you from your support system and your family and your friends. And then before you know it, um now your friends don't want to hang out with you either because you're always like flaking on them, or you're always just talking about how I can't go, or I'm going to hang out with so and so instead of being with your friends. So they also start feeling rejected and might feel like, well, why even ask this person out if we already know they're not going to want to hang out with us, right? So isolation is a huge part of an unhealthy relationship, and it also goes hand by hand with sabotage. Um, with sabotage, they prevent you from being successful, and this can look this can come in many ways, right? So, for example, let's say you have a really important test by the end of the week. So Friday you have to make this big test, math, a subject that you're not very familiar with. You know you have to study extra hard for it. And then when you tell them of like, I'm sorry, I can't hang out with you this week. I really have to study for this test that's coming up. It's really important to me. They start creating this argument of like, why don't you want to hang out with me? Like you always do this. And we always see this always and never um in the communication process of like, you're always doing this and you never want to do that. And so that's also a huge red flag. Maximizing the problem. And so they might ask you like, no, like you'll just study later, or let's just hang out for a bit, just 2 hours, we'll go watch a movie and then you can go back home and study, or I'll help you study, bring your things over and like we can study together. And then when you're there, they won't let you study, or for some reason they find ways to keep you distracted, and before you know it, it's the end of the week and you've studied nothing, and as a result you end up failing that test that was super important to you, right? So that's what sabotage can look like, or it can look like you missing a really big event in your life, like somebody's, like your friend's party, or a a class field trip because he doesn't or she doesn't or whoever they are might not want you to go. It can look like you missing out on a family event because they don't want you to go, and they find ways to convince you to not go. It's not going to be so explicit of like, I don't want you to go and you don't end up going. Like they'll find ways to isolate you, they'll find ways to control you, and to make it feel like it's your decision to not go. So that later, if you tell them, I can't believe you did this to me, I can't believe you didn't let me go, they're gonna be like, it was your decision. It wasn't like I was like, you know, I had you under key and locked up and you weren't able to go. Like you decided to not go. It wasn't me. And so that's kind of what sabotage looks like in an unhealthy relationship. It's they're taking away from things that will benefit you, from things that you really want to do, and things that are going to be good for your future. And for them, it doesn't matter, right? Like pretty much it's not about you in this relationship. It's just about the other person's needs. Jealousy is very common in an unhealthy relationship, and I feel like there's a thin line, right? Of course, you're gonna be jealous if someone, approaches your significant other, and you might feel a little insecure about it. Like, that makes complete sense. We're not telling you not to be jealous, but there is this um line of when it becomes like very excessive. So jealousy, it's like it's when they accuse you of inappropriate behavior, when you socialize with others, or I mean, now through social media, of like, why are you texting that person? Why do you follow that person? Why are you liking these people's pictures? Like, you have the right to do as you please with your social media, obviously, if it's something legal. Um, but they start accusing you of every little thing, because of their own insecurities, or because it doesn't comply with their own needs. Um, and our favorite line is like, well, I'm jealous because I love you. And that doesn't really justify any jealousy. Um, if you trust your partner and you're in a healthy relationship, you'll be able to see that jealousy is never justifiable. It's probably just means that there's a lack of trust, or low self-esteem, low confidence from the other person's part. That has nothing to do with who you are, right? And then we also see a lot of criticism in relationships, in unhealthy relationships, calling you names, making you feel worthless, and this can come off very subtle as well. Of like, I was just joking. I didn't really mean to call you like that. Like, or you're making a big deal. You're taking it too personal. Um, and this is very common with like friends and family as well. And so just to keep in mind, criticism should never take place in any kind of relationship, because we're supposed to be surrounding ourselves with friends and family, and people who we like, who support us. So why would someone tell you something that's just gonna make you feel bad about yourself, right? So especially in a relationship, if they start criticizing you, that's a sign of disrespect. And how I mentioned at the beginning, unhealthy relationships are characterized by disrespect and control. So by them calling you names or making you feel worthless, it's a clear sign of disrespect, and that shouldn't take place in any kind of relationship. Um, Another important one is blame. So making you feel guilty for what is happening. So let's say you don't end up going to that big party you really wanted it to go with your friends and your family. And when you tell them like why didn't want it to go, because you were gonna be mad if I go, then they were gonna tell you like, I didn't force you not to. Like, I didn't force you to stay. It was your decision. You're the one who didn't went. Like, don't blame it on me. It's your fault. Um, or with the isolation of like, you had this really big test, and because they want to spend time with you 24/7, you felt like you had to stay with that person, and you ended up failing your test. And when you bring it up to them, they'll be like, well, you're the one that didn't study. You're the one that would rather hang out with me. um like, that's on you. It's not my fault. And then with jealousy, like, kind of like what Dalia said at the beginning. Well, if you wouldn't have been talking with that person, I wouldn't have been angry, or I wouldn't have pushed you. And so they start really blaming everything that's happening to you, um, making it seem like for some reason this is happening and it's your fault. And then there's a lot of anger. So Anna did mention something very important. There's a big difference between anger management and then being angry in a relationship, right? So overreacting, making you feel afraid. If you don't feel comfortable expressing your needs in a relationship because you fear how the other person might react, that's a big red flag in every relationship. If you don't feel comfortable to just tell that person, I don't like it when you tell me that this shirt doesn't look good on me. I don't like it when you want to go over my phone I don't like it when you don't trust me. Like, if you don't feel comfortable saying that because of the fear of how the other person is going to react, like I said, it's a big red flag, right? Every relationship, you should feel comfortable enough to express your needs and not fear on the other person's reaction. Um, and so, just to close up with how unhealthy relationship looks like, just know that abuse and violence is never acceptable. Their intensity, their jealousy, control, criticism, isolation, blame, and anger is never justifiable. Like, they can be as mad as they want to, they can be as upset. Maybe you might have said something or did something that they didn't like that happens, but it never justifies violence. If they pushed you because they didn't like what you were wearing, or if they said you look ugly because you were wearing something that they told you to change into, like, it's never justifiable, right? So that's something that we really want to emphasize here. Violence is never the answer, no matter how angry the other person is, or how upset they are, or how or whatever the situation is. There's In a relationship, you should be able to communicate freely without fear. And if their only option is to be violent, then that is a big red flag and a huge key that you are in an unhealthy relationship. Um, so now we're going to see what a healthy relationship looks like. Ideally, these are the signs that we would want for every person and every teenager to see in their relationship. Um, just a reminder, you have the right to be in a healthy and loving relationship, regardless of your age, your gender, your sexual identity, um, regardless of anything. We all have the right to be in a healthy and loving relationship. And so hopefully, you can see the signs as well in your relationships. I know that sometimes when you end somewhat unhealthy relationships, or if you've been exposed to this cycle of violence throughout your childhood and your teenage years, it might be hard for you to identify these healthy signs. So hopefully, through these examples, you'll be able to notice who you have a healthy relationship with, or if in the future, when you're dating someone, you're able to identify this as well. So trust is at the core of your relationship. Like we mentioned, unhealthy equals disrespect and control. Healthy relationships, we see a lot of respect and a lot of equality. So you trust each other. Trust is the core of your relationship. There's no need for jealousy. There's no need for control. There's no need for judgment, because you both trust each other. Um, you're very comfortable spending time apart. It's not like in the other one where we saw that there's a lot of intensity. Here it's like you all have your time together, but you can be with other people, or you can spend time by yourself, you can spend time with friends and family, and you don't fear what might happen, right? So you're 100% comfortable spending time apart, and when you're together, you enjoy that time. You're interested in meeting each other's loved ones. So this is very important, especially in early relationships. I feel like sometimes we think like, oh, it's just casual. It's not a big deal. We don't have to meet each other's family. But when things start getting serious, this is a huge step in every relationship. If they just want you to be hanging out with their circle of friends, then that might be a sign of some form of isolation, right? If they don't want to hang out with your family, they don't want to meet your friends, um, that might mean that, they might be a little afraid of the impression that they might give to others. Maybe you're super in love and you don't see the red flags, but if somebody else who knows you sees you two, and your interactions, they might be able to identify those red signs and later on have that chat with you. And so maybe that's what the person doesn't want, right? They don't want to be able for other people to tell you like, hey, this person is probably not the right person for you right now. They can be a little intense, they seemed off, like they can be a bit controlling. So then they try to like not be around your circle. And then you're in a healthy relationship, you're not afraid to speak up. You're able to share your needs and share what you expect from the relationship without having the fear that something might happen to you, right? Without being fearful that that person might get mad and might yell or might push you around, or worst case scenario, might physically hurt you or assault you. um so and this comes because there's a lot of trust, there's a lot of equality. You feel like you're in a safe place where you can just speak freely about your feelings and your thoughts and your expectations in this relationship. Boundaries are respected. You can set your set of boundaries, and you know that that person is going to be 100% understandable and that will respect your boundaries, and then vice versa, right? We want a relationship to be both ways. So if you're setting down boundaries and you want that person to respect them, then you should do the same thing. Um, so being aware that what the other person needs is also important for this relationship to be a healthy relationship. Um, you support each other's goals. So like the other one, with unhealthy relationships, you see a lot of sabotage. Here you see that you support each other's goals. Like let's say you have that big test and they actually do help you study. They actually do mean it. Or when you ask them like, hey, we can't hang out this week, I need to focus on my school, they're completely okay with it. They let you be. They won't be texting you every minute just to see what you're doing, because they know that you're going to be busy, that you're going to be studying, and they respect that, because they want what's best for you. And then you are friends and you appreciate each other. That's my dog barking. Um, and so you appreciate each other. You show equal respect. And so, like we said, in a healthy relationship, there's respect and equality and trust at the core of it. So these are just some examples of what a healthy relationship can look like. When you come from very traumatic experiences or violence has been a cycle in your life, it's kind of hard to find these signs. So if you're not sure where your relationship stands, there's a lot of quizzes that you can do. There's one through loveisrespect.org that you can do. It's confidential. It just asks you questions about your relationship. And then at the end, it tells you where your relationship stands, if it's healthy, unhealthy, borderline. And it obviously gives you some really good information. So I would encourage you all to go through their website if you're unsure about where your relationship stands.
And just like Jackie mentioned, there's a lot of different sort of online quizzes and things that you can do to figure out if the relationship you're in is either healthy or unhealthy. But one of the really helpful tools that we offer is just a couple of questions just to do a relationship sort of health check. And depending on the answers that you give, and again, this is just you asking yourself these questions. And so you have to be really honest and real with yourself, right? About what's really going on in your relationship. So first of all, you look forward to spending time with your partner. Usually in a healthy relationship, anytime that you get an opportunity to go spend time with your partner, you get really excited, right? It brings you joy, it gives you energy. But if it's more of a situation where your answer to this is sometimes I look forward to spending time with them, sometimes not so much, or if the answer is straight up no, I don't look forward to spending time with them. It feels like it's a chore, or it feels scary to be around this person most of the time because I don't know what to expect from them. That can be a glaring red flag for you that something is very wrong in your relationship with that person. And you need to start doing some deep soul searching to figure out Do you even want to be in this relationship anymore, right? If you don't like to spend time with this person because it feels like a chore or it's scary and it's not adding any positivity or joy into your life, then it's maybe time to sort of change things, right? Whatever that looks like for you. Second question, can you share your thoughts and feelings without being insulted or shut down? If you feel like you're totally able to share a silly thought you had just random with this person, and instead of them telling you how stupid you are for even mentioning that to them, or even saying like, okay, why you're mentioning this to me, right? Getting those reactions. But instead they're like, oh, that's interesting, can you tell me a little bit more, like where did this idea come from, was it a dream? And they're showing genuine interest and they're curious, they want to know more about even this very small silly thought that you had. And it sounds like they're super invested in it, then that's a sign of a healthy relationship, right? They're trying to build you up. They're showing care and interest and even just asking questions, right? Is your partner always checking up on you? And so what this looks like, depending on the person involved, are they sending you text messages or DMs on the gram all the time? And if you don't answer them within 30 seconds to like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, all of a sudden you're getting cussed out over text or over DMs, or the next time you meet with them in person, they're giving you the silent treatment or are being very verbally aggressive towards you, all because you did not follow up, all because you did not give them an update. And even, some people might even demand that you share your GPS location with them just so they know where you are all the time. Again, that can be a sign that things are not so good and healthy in that relationship. If this person wants to keep closer tabs on you than maybe even your parents, right? That can also be another way of thinking about it. If this person wants to know where you are, who you're spending time with, all of those details about your business way more than your parents do, that's usually a big red flag. Also, are you able to spend as much time as you want either by yourself, with other friends, or family? As Jackie mentioned, one of the signs of an unhealthy relationship is isolation. They want to keep you to themselves, and they want to keep you away from being with your family or being with your community of friends, or even just simply being by yourself, just doing your own thing. Sometimes it's really important to also start figure out, okay, is this person keeping me away from maybe some hobbies that you really love and care to do? Do you love dancing? Do you love video games? Do you love crafting? And is this person taking up so much of your time that you cannot even do some of those things that, again, you only do them by yourself? They bring a lot of joy and positivity to your life. Also, are you able to say no to sex or any other activities without being punished for it? And again, that's pretty straightforward. If you say that you're not cool with sex or anything else, and they just leave it be or work with you to figure out something else you can do together, or if they're giving you the silent treatment, they're being very passive aggressive and just outright rude, especially if it's in front of a group of mutual friends. That's also very concerning. And then finally, do you feel safe? Or do you feel like you could end the friendship or the relationship if you wanted to and still feel safe? Usually for people that are in a healthy relationship, when they're asked this question, they would usually they respond, well, yeah, it would suck to end this relationship. I would cry a lot. I would be very sad, but I would still feel safe. Well, while in an unhealthy relationship or even an abusive relationship, there might be some fears around your emotional safety. You've been threatened that this person is going to spread rumors all around school, and that they're going to make sure that you never have a single friend for the rest of your high school career. If you stay in that school, they're going to make absolutely sure they're going to make your life miserable with their rumors. Or in the more severe cases, they might actually threaten to either hurt or kill you, or kill a pet, or kill other family or loved ones of yours. And if you're in that situation where just the idea of even ending the relationship, you're like, I can't do it. This person would snap and they would hurt me, they would hurt my dog, they would hurt my family. That is also a big sign that you are giving to yourself that things are not okay in this relationship. And if you're feeling that way, that's the time when you need to be getting in contact with professionals like the folks at Monarch or even Walnut Avenue, in order to figure out what is the best and safest way for you to make your way through this very difficult situation that you're in. So I know we've been talking a lot about healthy or unhealthy relationships, but the reality is that much like anything involving people, not everything is as black or white as it appears, right? And in order to sort of illustrate that point with relationships, this figure here is from loveisrespect.org. It is called the relationship spectrum. And all relationships can fall anywhere in this spectrum. And I know that we have been focusing a lot in the healthy or abusive end of the spectrum. But what oftentimes happens is that before relationships get to the point where they're in the opposite end of the healthy side of the spectrum, so being abusive, they oftentimes start off in this middle ground, the unhealthy territory, that murky gray area. And so how can you tell apart what's unhealthy, and when do you know that things have gone from unhealthy to just straight up abusive in a relationship? Well, usually what helps make that call is, was there some sort of, did you try to address the problem at some point? And if you try to address the problem and things got better, it's very easy for a relationship that was in that unhealthy sort of middle ground to go back to being healthy. But if maybe you try to have a talk with this person and they continue doing what they were doing, or their behavior just got worse, then it is very like, again, that unhealthy behavior or in relationship can go from unhealthy to just abusive very quickly too. So some examples of unhealthy relationship behavior is just, this person is just not communicating. More often than not, this is like, you text this person and they ghost you for like 4 days. And then they text you back about, hey, so where are you? We're supposed to hang out today. And meanwhile, for you, this is brand new information. This person had never talked to you about hanging out on that particular afternoon. And now they're mad because they thought that they had talked to you, but the reality is that they didn't. check in with you to see if this was okay, didn't let you know until you got that message. They're also disrespectful. And this could look like a variety of ways. This could look like this person just making some really like snide remarks about you, or your abilities in front of your group of friends. Could be, or sometimes what happens a lot is if you have, let's say, a Finsta account where it's only you and your closest friends, and they are essentially making posts or making stories, posting some really negative comments about somebody, but they're giving enough information there that for most people within that have access to that story, they're gonna know they're talking about you. They're also not very trusting, and they're very dishonest. So, you know, if you share something very personal that you want them to keep to themselves, they might go and share that with the class or with other people. They might also try to take control a lot. So this is, for instance, this is the type of person where if you decide, hey, let's go out and let's see a movie, and you thought that you both had decided to watch one movie, but this person all of a sudden turns around and says, you know what, no, we're going to watch this whole other movie. And then there's a lot of conflict that arises, right? Because you're going to be like, what? I thought we decided to go with movie A, not movie B. What's wrong? Like, why is this changing? They're also wanting to spend time together, right? And again, this is why that asking yourself that question, can you spend time by yourself or with other people, becomes into play. Because okay, if it's starting to happen a lot more often, then again, maybe it's time to have a talk with this person and just let them know, hey, I really value this relationship, but I need some time for myself. I want to spend some time with my other friends, or I want to spend some time with my family. And if this person respects that, then again, we can take that unhealthy behavior and it can go into healthy if they are cool with that. But if their behavior continues, or if it gets worse, then that's going down the abusive path. And one of the parts too that I think it's really important to mention is that there's also a lot of sort of economics involved when it comes to abuse. So for instance, in an unhealthy relationship, what this might look like is this friend, every time you go to 7-Eleven together, always expects you to buy them snacks. Always. And every single time it's supposed to be their turn, they conveniently either don't have money, or they simply forget and buy everybody else snacks, but not you. But when that behavior goes from unhealthy to abusive, it could be that this person is demanding a certain amount of money, especially if they know that you're working a part-time job, or demanding that you take them out for like dinner, get them all kinds of food, lend them money. And again, it just becomes a lot more frequent, the amount of money or things that they're asking of you. So always keep this in mind, that not all relationships are black and white. But if you are sort of reading and some of these about some of these behaviors, or after you heard some of these examples, you're like, oh my God, that's how my relationship with a friend or even the person that I'm dating is like. And if you realize that it's in that unhealthy territory, please remember, it's okay for you to have a talk with them about this behavior. And if this person is genuine about wanting to be with you and they change their behavior for the better, that's wonderful, right? When relationships fall into that unhealthy territory, that can be an opportunity for growth for both of you, right? Maybe learn how to communicate better, learn how to build trust in safer, healthier ways. But if you've had this talk with this person and they continue to do what they're doing, or their behavior just ramps up and gets worse, then maybe it's time to, again, reassess and figure out, do you even want to stay in this relationship? And if you do, how can you stay in this relationship as safe as possible, given that this person's behavior is not going to change anytime soon? And what would that look like for you?
So at the end of every thing that, Anna and Jackie have both talked about, and they've shared quite an extensive amount of examples. So I hope that everybody watching this, if you are maybe, like Anna said, identifying, or you kind of realize like, oh man, like that kind of sounds similar, like to what's going on with me or with my friend that I have. This is the reason why we are doing this type of video. So, we can help the community and people watching this video. Obviously, one, understand the topic, but two, if you haven't realized, or your friends or your family members haven't realized that they might be in a harmful situation, this is the way that we get people to, kind of identify, by educating. And just like in every relationship, as mentioned before, there needs to be respect, love, trust. There also needs to be consent. And consent's extremely important, not only in relationships, romantic ones, but even in friendships, even if you're just hooking up with someone, or if it's not something committed. So consent is extremely important. And what classifies consent, or what makes consent, is that it's freely given, which means that both people involved, or those involved, agree to do it without feeling forced, without feeling like they had to do it, without feeling like if they didn't agree, their partner was going to break up with them. So it's freely given. It's literally a choice, and they want to do it. It's reversible. Extremely important to note that just because somebody gives you consent once doesn't mean that every other time it's a yes. Or even if you are maybe in the middle of, like, let's say some people are okay with making out, and let's say things turn from there a little bit more, and they're like, okay, never mind, I don't want to continue doing this. You can't get mad at that person for like taking away their consent and saying like, hey, I was cool with making out, but I don't want you touching me in those areas. I'm not okay with that. So you have to know that you have the right to take consent away, but also the other person has to know that people have the right to take consent back and say, never mind, I don't want to do this. And even if it's like in the middle of like further activities going to happen, like sex, for example, it's from, you went from making out to doing other things on top of the clothes, then, clothes came off, and then it's about to happen. And even in that moment, if you don't want to do it anymore, you don't have to. And you, as the other person, you can't force that person, kind of like the freely given. You can't tell them like, oh, well, I'm already turned on, or like, then why were you making out with me? You can't do that. You have to respect people in order, to get respect. And when it comes to sexual activities, it can be a very intimate experience, and you have to be able to respect people and take no as an answer. If somebody says no, it's no, and you have to understand that. And if you are in a relationship, and you've been in this relationship for quite some time, that doesn't mean there's consent. Just because you've been dating someone for 1 year, 6 months, 3 years, it doesn't mean that there's automatic consent. No, there isn't. Same with like adults, and when they move in together or they get married, etc. just because somebody's married to someone and they're living with someone doesn't mean that there's automatic consent. There isn't. And then of course it's informed. It means both people know what's going on. It means both people are in their five senses, meaning there's no alcohol and no drugs involved. And just both people know that what they're about to do and that they want to do it. Same with like people with that perhaps have some type of mental illness that doesn't allow them to make rational decisions. One example I can give is like, let's say somebody, you know, does suffer from schizophrenia and they're having a crisis or an episode. And, you know, if you're aware of that and you still decide to proceed in engaging in sexual relationships, you need to be aware that that's not a fully informed consensual yes, because that person is having an a difference going on in their brain. You know, it's not in their state of mind where they can process everything that's going on. Therefore, that's not informed. So even though they might look like they're perfectly, you know, quote unquote normal, which we shouldn't use that word, but, you know, quote unquote normal, but you know they suffer from this mental illness and you still decide to engage in sexual activities with them, even though you know they're showing some signs that they're going through a crisis, you're taking advantage of that. And that is not consent. And that is actually quite harmful behavior and predatory at that point, basically. And we want to make sure that nobody, you know, takes consent and doesn't respect it. And then of course it's enthusiastic. You know, both people are happy to do it. Nobody feels forced, and it's specific, which kind of ties into what I talked about earlier. You know how far that person wants to go, and they also know how far you want to go. And like I said, there's some people that are perfectly fine with a lot of public display of affection. There's others who aren't. There's people who are fine with like making out and like maybe touching each other on top of their clothes. And there's other people that aren't okay with that. And then there's people who are perfectly fine with engaging in actual sexual activities that are beyond with the clothes on. So, you know, if you are starting a relationship or you are in a relationship, make sure that you do talk about your boundaries, one, and you learn your partner's boundaries, but you also understand that both of you might be different, but that's what a relationship's about, getting to know each other and, you know, respecting each other. If you're a person who maybe likes public display of affection, but your partner doesn't like that, that's why you build your relationship and try to, you know, compromise so both of you are happy and both of you are respecting each other. And remember, consent is super important. It doesn't matter how long you've been dating someone. You need to consent to all the activities, especially when it comes to sexual activities with your partner. And vice versa, you need to respect when your partner takes away that consent or doesn't want to consent to certain activities. We are not entitled to force people to do other things that they don't want to do. We are only entitled to our own actions and what we do. So we can't force others to do things they don't want to. And we need to really, you know, keep that in mind, especially with sex and sexual activities. If you can't even have a conversation of consent with your partner, that, as you know, Jackie and Anna were talking about, that's a red flag. That means, you know, there's not enough trust. There's not enough knowledge of each other to be even engaging in sexual activities. If you can't talk about consent with your partner, then maybe you shouldn't be doing sexual things together. So yeah, that's consent, and you know how it affects teen dating violence. But it also, you know, when there is consent and both people know their boundaries, that's healthy. It's healthy to know your boundaries. And then if you do have a friend or a loved one who is in a teen dating violence relationship, or they're experiencing violence in their relationship, the first thing is be a friend. A lot of times, you know, as friends, we want to help each other out. We want to make each other feel safe, which of course do that. But also, like, you know, make sure you really analyze what you say, because a lot of times as friends, we just want to get our friend to break up with that person, right? Like that would be the ideal thing. But we have to understand that, just how we talked about those cycles and all those things, it's hard for someone to just like wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to break it off and it's going to end on there. It's easy for us who are not in the situation to say it, but it's not easy for somebody to actually do it. So as a friend, try to stay away from those type of comments of, oh, just break up with them, or again, like how long are you going to take that for? Because those comments really hurt the individual. They're already hurting based on what's going on with their relationship, and just hearing those type of comments from us, their friends or loved ones, only makes it worse and validates what the person who's hurting them, makes them think about themselves, right? For example, what Jackie spoke about, making you feel like nobody likes you or you're not worthy. By us saying those comments, we validate those things to our friends. So let's try to stay away from that. But as a friend, we can let them know there's options. Hey, when you're ready, there's options. There's Monarch, there's Walnut. I'm here for you. If you trust your counselor at school, or if you trust a teacher or an administrator at school, let them know you'll go with them, and so they can talk to that person, or even calling one of our crisis lines. Of course, your friend has to be the one that wants to call, but you can support them by saying, hey, when you're ready, let's call this number together and I'll be here right next to you to support you. But being a friend, sometimes it's also just listening. And as much as we're inclined to like interrupt and give our opinion, being a friend, sometimes it's just, sitting there, being okay with not giving your opinion and really just hearing your friend out. Of course, as a friend and just in general, let them make their own choices. Don't try to impose your ideas on them. Please don't tell them, well, if I was you, I would do this, because that's not helpful at all in those situations. Instead, lay out their options, lay out their choices that they have, and let them choose what's best for them, because they're the ones that are in that situation. And a lot of times our friends, our loved ones, do make the quote unquote wrong choice in our eyes, and do go back to those relationships. And that's part of the trauma and the cycle. And it's hard for us as people that we love, for us to understand that. So that's why you have to take care of yourself. Practice self-care, but also if you're in a situation where your friend, is in this type of relationship and you're frustrated for your friend and you don't know what to do anymore, reach out for help. That's what our crisis lines are there for too. They're for people who are trying to help others. You can talk about it, you don't even have to give identifying information, anything like that. You can just talk about what's going on and, have that someone be your friend in order for you to help your friend. And then of course, consider safety. Safety's the number one thing. We need to make sure that, our friends are safe, our loved ones are safe. And if they're not, how can we help them develop something that's going to keep them safe for whatever, it is. If it's either that they're leaving, that they're breaking up with that person, that they're blocking them, whatever the case is, but always ensuring that after the fact, before the fact, and during the fact, they're going to be safe. And if you yourself watching this, or someone who needs support, or like you or that friend that needs support to be able to support your friend, you can always contact Monarch Services. We have a 24-hour bilingual crisis and support line. It's there at the 188 number. We do have an office in Watsonville and one in Santa Cruz. Those are our two office numbers. You can also call the office and set up an appointment. If you are over the age of 12, technically you don't need parental consent to receive services. But you do need to know that we are mandated reporters, which means if any type of abuse is disclosed, we are mandated to report it. But please do not let that discourage you or scare you from calling us. We will not leave you alone. We'll be with you through every step of the way. And you don't have to be scared that like a social worker is going to come knocking down your door. That we will be there with you. So please don't let that discourage you. And like I said, you can be completely anonymous. You don't even have to say your name, your age, nothing like that. You can just be like, hey, I just want to talk about this scenario. Or you can even call saying, what if? It doesn't have to be so direct unless you wish to give us that information. Of course, the advocate is going to ask you for that information, but you can just say, no, I want to be anonymous, and that's it. It's not like we trace your car, like pass your number on to like 911 or something. We don't do that. And then we do have an Instagram specifically for our teens, for our youth. It's Monarch for Youth. We do have a TikTok. It's Monarch SEC. And we also have a YouTube channel, which we post all of our webinars, other educational videos on there, both in Spanish and English. And now Anna's going to share about our other community resource.
Yeah, thank you, Dalia. So I am from the Walnut Avenue Family and Women's Center. And we're located in downtown Santa Cruz. We used to be a light blue building, but now we had recently redid our building color. So it's now this really lovely, rich, dark turquoise, really obvious, makes us easier to find. We have a 24-hour bilingual crisis hotline. Again, like Dalia mentioned, you are more than welcome to call us anytime. It could be because you need help for yourself, or even if maybe you have a friend or a loved one and you just want to know, how do I even have a conversation with them? My friend is going through this. I'm seeing some really worrying behaviors from their partner, and I just don't know how to talk to them about it. Please give us a call. We would be more than happy to help you. Again, our hotline advocates might ask you for some like race, age type information, but if you just don't feel comfortable sharing that, just let them know, hey, I don't feel comfortable sharing that with you right now. I just want to talk about what I'm going through or what my friend is going through. I just need that information. We also have our office number, and through our office line, you not only can get help if you are experiencing teen dating violence, or again, if you have a friend and you just need to talk one-on-one with somebody in much more detail about what's going on. We also offer healthy relationship sort of coaching. So if maybe after this presentation you realize like, oh my goodness, I actually realized that I am a really passive aggressive person when I communicate, or my communication skills are terrible. My boundary skills could use a lot of work because maybe I don't set very good boundaries, or my boundaries are too rigid and that's stopping me from making friends. Please give us a call. We would be more than happy to work with you to make sure that you have those skills in your toolbox. And we have our agency's Instagram account, and that's where we usually post like any announcements about our other youth programs, activities, and events that we have coming up. And we also have a youth-specific TikTok account, the Walnut Avenue for Youth, where we do post some educational content for you to watch and share if you want a much more easy to digest form of information about healthy relationships and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And we hope that you are able to use this information to have the best and most successful relationships that you could possibly have with the people that you date and anybody else for that matter.